Right now, the United States is about to get hit by something that doesn't happen very often. I'm not talking about one big storm. I'm not talking about one heat wave. I'm talking about everything happening at once. On one side of the country, temperatures are about to climb so high that the numbers almost don't look real. We're talking 110. We're talking 115 degrees. Not the feels-like number. Not with humidity added in. The actual air temperature. The kind of heat where the pavement can burn through your shoes after just a few minutes of standing on it. The kind where your car steering wheel becomes too hot to touch without burning your palms the second you open the vehicle door. The kind where being outside for too long can put you in the hospital with heat exhaustion or even life-threatening heat stroke. And while that is happening in one part of the country, something completely different is building in another. A storm machine is turning on across the northern states. Not one storm, not two. Round after round after round of violent thunderstorms are lining up to hit the same parts of the Midwest and Great Lakes over and over again for days on end. We're talking damaging straight-line winds that can rip heavy tree branches off trees and hurl them straight through home windows. We're talking hail the size of golf balls falling from the sky, capable of denting car roofs, shattering siding and smashing outdoor property. And we're talking about tornadoes, real, destructive ones. The kind that can flatten an entire house in mere seconds with almost zero advance warning. But here's the part that almost nobody is paying attention to. There's a third threat hiding behind all of this chaotic weather, one that doesn't make the dramatic breaking news headlines, one that sneaks up on people slowly after the storms pass and the skies clear up. And it might end up being the most dangerous part of this entire weather pattern, even more so than the heat or tornado risk. I'll get to that soon. But first, you need to understand how all of this connects together, because once you see the full big picture setup, you'll understand why meteorologists across the whole country are glued to their computer screens right now, closely monitoring every shift in the atmosphere. This is one of those rare weeks where every single weather ingredient lines up at the exact same time. The extreme heat feeds and fuels the violent storms. The storms in turn create that hidden danger most people overlook, and that hidden danger is the one most people won't see coming until it is already too late to prepare. And there's one more major factor I haven't even mentioned yet. The Atlantic Ocean, the place where hurricanes are born and grow stronger, is doing something very strange right now, something that looks like great news on the surface. But underneath the ocean surface, there is a major catch that could have huge real-world consequences before the official hurricane season wraps up. We'll get to that too. So, let's break all of this down step by step. I want you to understand exactly what is coming, exactly where each hazard is heading, and exactly what practical steps you should take about it to protect yourself and your household. Because this is one of those forecasts where knowing what's happening a few days early could genuinely keep you and your family safe from serious harm. And if this is the kind of weather breakdown that actually helps you understand what's going on, instead of just scaring you with sensational doom talk, then hit that subscribe button right now. Because this complex weather pattern is going to keep shifting and evolving over the next several days. The forecast for Sunday alone could shift in a very big way based on small atmospheric changes. And when those updates roll in, I want you to be the first to know. That's what this channel is all about. Not over-the-top hype, not unnecessary panic, just clear, honest weather information that helps you stay ahead of whatever is coming your way. So, subscribe and turn on notifications. You'll be glad you did this week. Now let's get into the heat, because that's where this whole story starts. There's a massive blob of hot air sitting right over the middle of the United States right now, and it is not going anywhere fast. Think of it like a giant invisible lid pressing down from miles up in the sky. It's like someone put a pot on the stove, turned the heat all the way up, and then slammed a heavy lid on top so none of the trapped heat can escape. The air underneath just keeps getting hotter and hotter with nowhere to go. Regular wind patterns can't push this hot air mass out. Clouds cannot break through its strong upper-level cap. The heat just sits there and bakes absolutely everything underneath it day and night. That's exactly what is happening right now over the central and southern plains. The temperatures it's creating are absolutely wild and historically unusual. Let me give you some hard numbers. Across parts of southern Kansas and northern Oklahoma, high temperatures are expected to push toward 115 degrees. Now I want you to sit with that number for a second, because 115 degrees is not a normal hot summer day. That's not just, oh, it's a scorcher out there. That is life-threatening, dangerous heat. That is the kind of heat where the National Weather Service starts urging people to stay indoors as much as humanly possible. That is the kind of heat where asphalt roads can buckle and warp under the relentless sun, where local power grids get pushed to the absolute edge of failure from massive air conditioning demand, and where people can get seriously sick just from the short walk from their front door to their parked car. And this isn't a one-day heat blast. That's what makes it so much worse for human bodies. If it was just one really hot afternoon, your body could handle it fairly well. You'd drink some extra water, stay inside, and be fine the next day. But this oppressive heat is sticking around for multiple days in a row. By Saturday, it starts spreading further north. It pushes north into South Dakota and Nebraska. Temperatures there climb well past 100 degrees. Places that normally enjoy a mild summer day in the 80s or low 90s are suddenly staring down triple-digit heat that feels completely out of place for their local climate. By Sunday and Monday, it gets even worse. Cities in central Kansas could see highs around 112. St. Louis could hit 101. And across a wide stretch of the southern and central plains, the heat just does not let up. Day after day, the thermometer barely drops even once the sun goes down at night. And that's the critical part people don't always think about. When it's 112 degrees during the day, you would naturally expect it to cool off significantly at night, right? But under a powerful heat dome like this, the nighttime temperatures stay dangerously warm too. Your body never gets a proper chance to cool down and recover. You go to bed hot, you wake up hot, and then the next day brings even hotter conditions. This kind of unrelenting heat is expected to hold its grip through roughly Tuesday or Wednesday of next week before it finally starts to weaken and break apart. That's nearly a full week of extreme, unforgiving heat for millions of people living across these states. Now here's something I really want you to hear because I think it matters more than any other part of this forecast. Heat does not look scary on camera. It doesn't make for dramatic viral video footage. Nobody films heat the way they film a tornado tearing through a neighborhood or a hurricane slamming into a coastline. But heat kills more people in the United States every single year than tornadoes, hurricanes, and floods combined. That's not an opinion. That is hard, verified public safety data. Year after year, heat ranks as the #1 weather-related killer in this country. And it's largely because people underestimate its power. They think they can tough it out and push through. They write it off as just another hot day, and then they end up in serious medical trouble. So if you live anywhere in the central or southern plains right now, please take this threat seriously. Check in on your elderly neighbors who may not have reliable air conditioning. Make sure your pets have constant access to fresh water and shaded rest areas. Never leave a child or an animal in a parked car, not even for one single minute. When a car is sitting out in 115 degrees heat, the inside cabin can reach 150 degrees in less than 15 minutes. That level of heat can be fatal very quickly. Drink water before you start feeling thirsty. Don't wait until dehydration sets in. Stay inside during the hottest part of the day if you can. And if you absolutely have to be outside, take frequent breaks in the shade and watch closely for early signs of heat sickness like dizziness, confusion, or nausea. Those are your body's clear warning signals. Listen to them and act fast. Now here's where this story takes a turn that I think is absolutely fascinating. Because that dome of heat sitting over the middle of the country, it's not just making things unbearably hot, it's also building a storm factory, a factory for powerful destructive storms. And the storms it's about to create are something else entirely. So you've got this giant dome of hot air just sitting there, pressing down on the middle of the country like a heavy weight. Nothing can get through it. Nothing can move it out of position. The air underneath just cooks away. But here's the fundamental thing about weather. It doesn't like to sit still for long. The atmosphere is always trying to balance out its temperature and pressure differences. When one part gets extremely hot, the surrounding air starts moving. It rushes in, it rises upward, and it clashes with cooler air nearby. And when hot air and cooler air smash violently into each other, that's when things get dangerous. Now think about where that heat dome is sitting. Right over the central plains. To the north of it, the air is much cooler. The jet stream, which is like a fast-moving river of wind high up in the sky, is running right along the top edge of that dome. And right along that boundary edge is where all of the storm action happens. The hot air from the dome is pumping huge amounts of moisture and energy upward into the atmosphere. The jet stream is pushing cooler air and strong winds in from the northwest. And right where these two air masses meet, the atmosphere becomes incredibly unstable. It's like shaking a bottle of soda hard and then popping the cap open. All that built-up energy has to go somewhere. And where it goes is straight up, fast, in the form of massive, violent thunderstorms. This is why, while the southern plains are baking under deadly heat, the northern plains, the Midwest, and the Great Lakes are getting hammered by rounds of severe storms. Same large-scale weather pattern, same root cause, two completely different nightmares depending on exactly where you live. Let me walk you through what's coming day by day because the exact timing matters a great deal here. Today and tonight, the first wave of these storms is already rolling in. Across the upper Midwest, from Iowa up through Minnesota and into Wisconsin and Michigan, thunderstorms are expected to become widespread through the afternoon and evening hours. The biggest danger with these storms is straight-line wind. That's wind that blows in one direction with tremendous force, strong enough to snap power poles, flip heavy trampolines, and send all kinds of debris flying through the air. Large hail is also possible, especially farther west across South Dakota and Nebraska, where the storms can grow really tall and really angry. Now here's something I want to flag for everyone watching. The official forecast shows the tornado risk today is low, and it is low, but I don't think it is zero. There's a corridor running from around Des Moines up toward central Wisconsin, where the winds near the ground are expected to shift and strengthen late in the afternoon. When that wind shift happens, even a regular-looking thunderstorm can suddenly start spinning and produce a brief tornado. It doesn't happen often on days like this, but it absolutely can happen. And if you're in that area, having a reliable way to get weather warnings on your phone is the smartest thing you can do today. Along the East Coast, a separate batch of storms is expected to fire up during the afternoon. The area from around Cleveland and Columbus eastward toward Philadelphia and Washington could see scattered thunderstorms with some strong wind gusts. The tornado risk there is very low. But in August, on a hot and humid afternoon, the atmosphere can sometimes throw a curveball. A quick spin-up tornado, the kind that forms and disappears in just minutes, is never completely impossible when the air is this moisture-heavy. So stay aware even if the overall risk looks small. Down in the desert Southwest, monsoon season is in full swing. Arizona and New Mexico will deal with repeated rounds of heavy rain, and flash flooding remains a serious concern in the usual low-lying trouble spots. If you live near a wash or canyon in that part of the country, you already know the drill. Stay out of low-lying areas when the rain is coming down hard. Flash floods can arrive with almost no warning. Saturday. Saturday is the quietest day in this whole stretch, and honestly, I think it's worth saying that plainly. Not every day in an active weather pattern is going to bring nonstop drama. Saturday's storms will mostly focus on the interior Northeast. Pennsylvania and New York are the main areas to watch. Scattered thunderstorms could bring gusty winds and isolated hail during the afternoon. There's a narrow window, roughly between 3 o'clock and 7 o'clock in the evening, where a quick tornado in central or eastern Pennsylvania is not completely off the table. But overall, Saturday is more of a short breather before the main event arrives, and the main event is Sunday. Sunday, the day that has every weather forecaster's full attention. Out of every day in this forecast, Sunday carries the highest severe weather potential. And I want to explain what I mean by that because it's important to set realistic expectations. I'm not telling you Sunday is guaranteed to be a total disaster. I'm telling you that all the key ingredients for something really significant are coming together. And if they line up the way some of the computer models suggest, Sunday could be a very serious day across the upper Midwest. Here's what's unfolding. By Sunday, the winds high up in the atmosphere and the winds closer to the ground are both going to be cranking at high speeds. The upper-level winds shift from a northwesterly direction to a more westerly one. That might sound like a small change on paper. It's not. It's a huge deal for storm development. Because when the upper winds come from the west and the lower winds come from the south, the air starts to twist vertically. And that rotational turning is exactly what the most dangerous type of thunderstorm needs to form. That type of storm is called a supercell. I know that sounds like something out of a comic book, but it's a well-established real weather term. A supercell is basically a thunderstorm that has its own persistent rotating engine inside it. It's the kind of storm that can produce very large hail and powerful long-track tornadoes. And the atmosphere on Sunday is setting up to give these storms everything they need to thrive. The amount of energy available for storms to feed on is expected to be absolutely enormous. We're talking about energy levels that make even experienced forecasters stop and look twice at their data screens. Across parts of Minnesota and Iowa, the atmosphere could be so loaded with fuel that storms won't need much of a push to explode into full-blown severe weather. Here's how Sunday might play out. The morning could start quiet and calm. Maybe a few scattered showers, nothing too alarming. But watch the afternoon closely. That's when things could change fast. A supercell or two could develop across the northern part of Wisconsin. As the evening approaches, more storms could fire up and eventually merge into a long line of thunderstorms that marches across the region like an advancing wall. If that happens, cities like Milwaukee, Grand Rapids, and possibly even Detroit could be dealing with severe storms overnight into early Monday. Damaging wind would be the main concern, with hail and possibly a tornado or two earlier in the cycle before the storms merge into a solid line. And this is something I want to spend a minute on because overnight storms are one of the most underestimated dangers in weather. Think about it. During the day, you can see a storm coming. You can see the dark, roiling clouds. You can see the sky turning that ominous green hue. You can spot rotation if a tornado is forming. You have clear visual warning. But at night, you don't have any of that. All you have is sound. The wind howling outside your window, the loud crash of thunder. Maybe the power goes out and you're sitting in complete darkness while the whole house shakes. That's terrifying. And it's also extremely dangerous because people are asleep. They're not watching the sky. They might not hear a tornado siren if they are in a deep sleep. And if their phone isn't properly set up to receive emergency alerts, they might not know a warning has been issued until it is already too late. That's why if you live in the Midwest or Great Lakes right now before Sunday gets here, double-check your phone settings. Make sure emergency alerts are fully turned on. If you own a weather radio, put fresh batteries in it ahead of time, and know exactly where you would go in your house if you had to take shelter at 2 o'clock in the morning. A basement is best. An interior room on the lowest floor with no windows is the next best option. Just have your shelter plan ready ahead of time, Monday and beyond. That kind of extreme temperature swing is genuinely wild. It's the kind of thing that makes you appreciate just how dramatic and unpredictable weather can be in the United States. No other country on Earth sees this wide range of weather hazards all at the same time quite the way we do. From scorching desert heat to near-freezing temperatures, from violent tornadoes to flash floods, all unfolding in the same week, in the same country, driven by this single large-scale weather pattern. For farmers in northern Minnesota, those cold readings are worth keeping a close eye on. Cold snaps like this at this time of year can stress growing crops and hurt harvest potential. The good news is that right now, it doesn't look like temperatures will drop all the way to an actual freeze. So, a damaging hard frost probably isn't in the cards just yet. But it's a reminder that summer doesn't last forever, and these big pattern shifts can make the seasons feel like they're changing practically overnight. And speaking of things that aren't lasting forever, let me touch on one more part of this story, because it's the strangest piece of the whole puzzle, and it has to do with activity across the tropical Atlantic. Over the Atlantic right now, the Atlantic Ocean is quiet. And I don't just mean a little quiet. I mean unusually, weirdly quiet for this point in the hurricane season. By early August, you would normally expect to see at least some tropical activity brewing out over the open water, disturbance waves coming off the coast of Africa, clusters of thunderstorms trying to organize over warm ocean water, something. But right now, there's almost nothing happening. And there is a very specific reason for it. A strong El Niño pattern is in place right now. El Niño is a significant warming of the surface water in the Pacific Ocean, and it has a huge ripple effect on weather patterns all around the world. One of those key effects is that it increases wind shear over the Atlantic basin. Remember when I talked about wind shear earlier? How changes in wind speed and direction at different altitudes can help thunderstorms organize into dangerous supercells? Well, over the Atlantic, that same wind shear does the exact opposite. Instead of helping storms organize and strengthen, it tears them apart before they can mature. It's like trying to build a tall tower out of blocks while someone keeps knocking it over and over again. Tropical storms need calm, stable, organized upper-level conditions to grow. And right now, the Atlantic is anything but calm and organized at those higher altitudes. Every time a tropical disturbance tries to form, the shear rips it apart before it can become anything serious. So that sounds like great news, right? And on the surface, it is. Fewer hurricanes forming means fewer immediate threats to the East Coast and Gulf Coast. But here's the catch, and it's an important one you should keep in mind. All that warm water in the Atlantic isn't going anywhere. The ocean has been absorbing massive amounts of heat all summer long, and because no large storms have come along to churn it up and release that stored-up energy into the atmosphere, it just keeps building. The water keeps getting warmer. The ocean's stored energy keeps piling up higher and higher. So, what happens if later in the season, maybe in September or October, the disruptive wind shear relaxes enough for a tropical system to finally break through? That storm would suddenly have full access to all that massive stored-up ocean energy, and it could strengthen fast, really fast. We're talking about a storm going from a weak tropical disturbance to a major hurricane in just a matter of days. That kind of rapid intensification is one of the most dangerous things in weather, because it leaves almost no time for coastal communities to prepare and evacuate. History is full of real-world examples of this exact scenario. Quiet hurricane seasons that produce just 1 or 2 storms total, but those few storms end up being absolute monsters. It only takes one powerful hurricane to cause catastrophic damage. And that's why, even though the Atlantic looks calm right now, nobody in the weather community is letting their guard down. I'll be watching the tropics closely for the rest of the season. And if anything starts to spin up out there, you'll hear about it right here. But for now, just know that a quiet Atlantic does not mean a safe Atlantic. It just means the energy is building up and waiting for its chance. Now, I know I've thrown a whole lot of information at you in this video. Heat, storms, tornadoes, flooding, cold fronts, quiet hurricanes. It's a lot to keep track of. So let me pull it all together and give you the simple, clear picture of what this all means for you. When you step back and look at all of this from above, there's really one main character in this story, that dome of heat. It's the anchor. Everything else revolves around it. The dome creates the extreme high temperatures across the central and southern plains. Its northern edge, where all that hot air collides with cooler air and strong jet stream winds, creates those repeated daily rounds of severe thunderstorms. Those storms, tracking over the exact same areas day after day, create the elevated flooding risk I mentioned earlier, and eventually a cold front breaks through and ends the heat wave, but not before delivering a dramatic temperature crash that takes parts of the country from summer inferno to near winter-like conditions in the space of just a few days. It's all connected. One large-scale pattern, one root cause, multiple overlapping dangers. And that's what makes this week so unusual. Most of the time, we deal with one big weather threat at a time. This week, we're dealing with all of them at once. So here's what I want you to take away from this report. If you live in the central or southern plains, respect the heat. It doesn't look as visually scary as a tornado, but statistically it is more dangerous. Stay hydrated consistently. Stay inside during the hottest hours of the day. Check on neighbors and loved ones who might need help. And never ever leave anyone or any pet in a parked car. If you live in the Midwest, the Great Lakes, or the Ohio Valley, treat every afternoon and evening this week as a time to stay weather aware. Have your phone emergency alerts turned on? Know exactly where you will take shelter if warnings go out. Pay special attention to Sunday. That's the day with the highest potential for something significant, especially across the upper Midwest. And if storms roll through at night, have a solid plan for that scenario too. A weather radio with fresh batteries can wake you up when your phone might not. If you live anywhere that could see heavy rain later in the week, remember the golden safety rule. Turn around, don't drown. A flooded road is not a shortcut. It is a hidden trap. And if you live along the Atlantic coast, don't let the currently quiet tropics lull you into a false sense of safety. The hurricane season isn't over yet. Stay ready. I also want to be straight with you about one more thing, because I think honesty matters more than sounding overly confident. The fine details of this forecast are still shifting day to day. The heat and today's storms, those I feel very confident about. Sunday's severe weather threat, the potential is real and the ceiling is high, but exactly how it plays out is still uncertain. The flooding risk for the middle of next week is concerning, but not locked in. And the idea of another storm system developing a week from now, that's just a hint at this point. Nothing more. As the days go on, some of these threats will grow stronger. Others might fade away completely. And I'll be right here updating you as the forecast picture gets clearer. That's the thing about a forecast like this. It's not a one-time static prediction. It's a story that keeps developing. And the difference between a quiet, safe day and a dangerous one can come down to catching a small change in the forecast just a few hours early. So, stay with me on this one. This is a week where paying attention really matters. All right, that's going to do it for this one. If this breakdown helped you understand what's coming, if it made a confusing and chaotic weather situation a little bit clearer, then hit that like button because it helps more people find this video when they're searching for answers. Subscribe if you haven't already and turn on notifications so you're ready when the Sunday forecast comes into sharper focus. And before you go, I want to hear from you. Out of everything in this forecast, the extreme heat, the tornado threat on Sunday, the flooding risk, or that strangely quiet Atlantic hurricane season, which one concerns you the most and why? Drop it in the comments. I read through them, and it's always fascinating to see how different the answers are depending on where you live and what weather experiences you've had before. Stay safe out there. I'll see you in the next one.